It's Danielle.
And Tricia.
And we are here with a hot takes video. Now, before we get into this, we just want to put a warning across the screen. If you have not read If You Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin or The Inheritance Games by...
the person that wrote that book.
We'll put it on the screen. We don't remember right now. We are going to be talking all things those books because we have some very controversial opinions. We know both of those are very popular. Inheritance Games has a lot of books in the series. If You Have Been With Me, a second one has been released now. And we have thoughts on everything. And they are negative. So we are going to be talking everything, all things about those two books. So if you have not read those books, then we highly suggest maybe wait to watch this video.
I will put timestamps in the description if you do want to read about or watch the video about one of the books but not the others. You can jump around that way. But this is your official warning. We will be spoiling these books. If you don't want spoilers, this video is not for you.
No. All right, so let's get into it. Tricia, start us off. Let's talk If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. What did you think? Let's start off with the premise or plot of the book.
What plot? That's what I have to say about that. What plot? There's no plot. Like, Danielle, you can get into it more in depth, but it's literally like reading someone's high school diary. There's no rhyme or reason to what it includes. The story doesn't, like, sure, the main character is growing up, but, like, there's no significance to anything she talks about. Things don't relate. There are empty plot lines all over the place. What plot?
Jumping from chapter to chapter, it would be like literally a high schooler's diary. So it would be like she has this problem, she's like talking about it. And then in the next chapter, it was like, it is now March. And that happened in like December. So it was like, you know, when you would write in your diary as a kid and you'd be like, I have this giant problem. But then you would never explain what happened. Because like, obviously you solved it. So you don't need to explain what happened. It was like that. Honestly, that was what it felt like, is she would just mention these events and then somehow they would got resolved. I also felt very triggered by this book. If you in your teenage years went through abusive relationships, manipulative relationships, relationships where and I am going to put this to females because I am a female. If you
are?
I am. If you were a female and you were attracted to young men between the ages of 14 and 18 in high school, then you understand how you might overthink everything, want to change yourself, be okay with manipulative behavior because you didn't want to be alone. And that was this book. And like, I was like that. I'm okay to admit that. There were a lot of times, particular people from high school that were manipulative. Looking back on it now, super toxic relationships. But as a teenager, hormonally, your brain is not developed enough to recognize and deal with those relationships, which is why you have wonderful best friends who say, hey, they're not good. They ain't good person.
You're worth more than that. Don't put up with their BS.
Thank you. But that's what, not so much maybe the main relationship with the girl and the guy. However, she had a friend where her boyfriend was super manipulative. For
sure. And her best friend was also super manipulative.
Yep.
So, yeah, the best friend was a piece of poop. But also, like, the main character's relationship, hers and his, she wouldn't have seen it as abusive, but I would maintain that she was abusive friend to him because she always expected him to be there for her. He had to do things for her. He had to drop everything for her.
Yeah.
But she never made an effort for him. And, like, he put himself out there.
Yeah.
She rejected him. And, of course, she's writing this diary from her perspective. But, like, chances are she knew what he was doing and she was just too scared to deal with it.
And that's also to the young men out there. Obviously, we are females. However, males, you also have the right to not have a toxic relationship. But I think, especially because this is from her perspective, that automatically it was like, it's him, it's him, it's him, it's him, which totally valid. There are males that are very toxic, but you also have to recognize that there are females that are toxic. And she's expecting him to do all these things, and it's those societal norms of men are supposed to do all of these things, but men aren't mind readers. And that, I think, is something that I myself struggled with, to be like, well, why is he not doing this, 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 and this when I was a teenager? But they're obviously not mind readers. So I think this book, there are books out there that talk about toxic relationships and talk about abuse, and they are super good for good lessons, and this is not one of them.
No.
This is not one of those books to say, hey, my teenage daughter / son, you should read this in order to learn how to deal with a toxic relationship. Nuh-uh. Nope. So it just, zero plot, a lot of toxic behavior, annoying characters. There was no base to these characters. I couldn't.
And the writing sucked. I'm sorry. I know that this was originally, like, published online as something, I believe it was free to read kind of thing, but it read like a Wattpad story that wasn't fully fleshed out. Like, the simplicity of the language. How many times do you have to talk about the color of his freaking socks?
That was so unnecessary.
It was not needed. Like, I understand throwing things into a story that aren't, like, the most important thing to flesh out the world. But there was, like, 5 scenes about his socks.
I just don't get it. I still don't understand what the thing about the socks was. It was very confusing.
Had colored socks. Like, who cares?
Also, it did a terrible job with sexual relationships as teenagers. So, sexual relationships with teenagers. This book did a horrible job. Their friend had sex with a guy, and, like, just, I remember it brought me back when we would, like, huddle in little areas of high school, or if we were hanging out at somebody's house and somebody was, like, dropping the hot goss, and we were, like, huddling in, like, little areas, because the boys would be, like, over here, like, doing their thing, and we would be, like, it, like, and that was not a good way to deal with sexual relationships. We did it. So, obviously, we had strong opinions about If He Had Been With Me. Not much else to say, just writing, plot, characters, very flat.
Everything sucks.
No substance, no depth. Not good. Let's move on. Inheritance Games, Tricia's favorite book.
I love it so much. That's my controversial opinion. It's my favorite book of all time. It's not poorly written. It doesn't have stupid characters. It doesn't have a dog crinkling a water bottle that you're going to hear throughout this.
We apologize. We can only do so much.
That entire book was like, it's called The Inheritance Game, but it's really not. I'm sorry. She's not, I get it. She's inheriting this person's thing, but, like, she has no tie to him.
The reason why was the stupidest thing that I have ever read.
Because her name is an anagram.
That, again, we said, spoiler alert, she inherited this man's money because her name is an anagram.
And then she gives it all away.
She ends up giving it all away. So basically you have these 4 brothers who are assholes, by the way.
Even the nice one is a piece of poop.
Asshole. And I walked into this book expecting Knives Out.
Yeah, I wanted Knives Out for young adult readers.
I wanted, like, danger, twists and turns, like, puzzles, like the puzzling game aspect. There was about 3 chapters at the end where they actually had all these puzzles that they had to figure out. Those were the best chapters of the book.
But even in those areas...
But they weren't focused on it enough.
No, and if they gave, like, a clue, it would be the next page. Or sometimes even 2 sentences later in the same paragraph, it explained exactly what the clue was hinting at. I'm like, what's the point? I'm not using my brain. Yeah,
it doesn't give the reader enough time to try and figure it out and get there for themselves. I did not get the point of all the dramatics. And the chapter that talked about for like 6 pages, her picking an outfit. What?
It was not needed.
Is it going to be the blue sparkly top or the pink sparkly top?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you trying to pick out what dress Aurora's going to be wearing? Pink, blue, pink, blue.
No. No, it's not needed. And it was going to, like, the title was like, give me mystery, give me thriller. It was contemporary romance.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like, the most thrilling aspect was when the Danger Brother, see, I care so little, I don't even remember what their names are.
We don't.
The Danger Brother jumped off the balcony like 2 stories up and was perfectly fine. Wasn't injured at all.
And then there was, like, trying to figure out, like, I wanted, like, somebody to get killed. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted. And then there was the part where they were going through the forest thing and getting shot at.
Yeah, why?
I still don't understand.
Why?
Because also, the way they explained the will, if she had died, none of those people would have gotten the money anyway.
Yeah, why?
Like, at least make it that if she dies, one of them gets the money.
Like, come on.
It was the stupidest, like, because then the reader's like, well, there's no point. If she dies, she dies. They're not going to get the money anyway. Yeah. It was, like, so dumb.
It was stupid.
Again, another one where so many plot holes, so many obvious solutions, just, it was not good. I know there's a whole series about this Hawthorne family. I know there's like a spin-off series thing. It just is not worth it.
No. Save
your money, buy something better, buy a Kelly Armstrong book.
Hell yeah!
Right? Buy an Allie Hazelwood.
Armstrong right beside Danielle. All these ones right here. She has her own shelf. It's 2 layers deep. I love her. Highly recommend Kelly Armstrong.
Yeah. Mystery thrillers, do not pick this series up. It is not a mystery or thriller. We also ended up Googling the synopsis for the rest of the books in the Inheritance Games series. Not worth it.
No. And we're not people that will be like, oh, I'm not sure if I should read it. Let me look.
No.
We were so convinced that after the first book, we wouldn't care, that we're like, maybe something in the rest of the series, in the synopsis, will get us to pick it up, to continue. No. It just reaffirmed we don't want to read this. That it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it's such a popular book.
I don't get it. I don't get how it's so highly rated on Goodreads. If you look it up, they're all like above a 4-star. I don't understand it. I know everybody has a difference of opinions. These are obviously our opinions, so if you don't agree and you love that, great, good for you, you do you. But these are our thoughts and opinions. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's a 4-star series.
I'd also like to say, Ash agrees with us on almost every single one of these points. We've talked about this book in length since we read it months ago. Like, all 3 of us do not think this book is worth it. She, I believe, has already unhauled it, and Ash likes to keep her books.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Yeah. And it's like, and again, we are all vastly different readers. We all read vastly different genres. We have similar genres that we like, but we always all have different opinions. And the fact that none of us liked this series, I think speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Again, no hate. If you liked these books, great. These are just our opinions. I want to end off this video with talking about some controversial bookish tropes that I don't like. I'm not sure if Tricia has any. Maybe she loves all of them. But I would say my top 2 is I hate enemies to lovers, and I hate forced proximity. The reason I hate enemies to lovers is, like I said with toxic relationships, sometimes enemies to lovers happens because of manipulation and abuse, and I think it needs to be written the correct way. And I think that it needs to be done in a natural way that does not make it like she hates or he hates everything about the other person, and then all of a sudden they flip-flop because the person did one thing, like they gazed into their eyes lovingly. That's not going to make you love somebody that you hate. And I think in a book, and I understand you have restrictions based on how much you can write in a book. However, relationships like that, to grow from enemies to lovers, takes time. And it just is boring to read if it's dragged out, I find.
If you don't like enemies to lovers, don't read Cruel Prince by Holly Black.
No.
I love it. That is definitely one trope that I read a lot of.
Yeah.
Only when it's done well. If it's done poorly, I'm like, nope, next, don't care about you.
Yeah.
But like Cruel Prince by Holly Black is one that I think is done well, and it's like fully fleshed out why they don't like each other, and it's developed throughout the entire series. But that definitely is a trope that, like, if I see it, I'll pick it up.
My other one, forced proximity. I don't know, it reminds me too much of, like, reality shows. And it's like The Bachelor, or not The Bachelor, well, I guess The Bachelor, but Big Brother. Like, Big Brother, when they're just, like, put in a house and they're, like, forced to interact and whatever. And I don't know, it's just, those two tropes are, like, they have to be written well for me to want them to work. And sometimes forced proximity is just one that I find so dull. And in a lot of contemporary romances, which I don't love contemporary romance, don't love. We already made that joke, but
love.
Wasn't funny. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. But anyway,
it was funny. It was a funny joke, and I stand by it.
Okay, sure. But yeah, those are two that, I don't know, it just irritates me because there's a lot of authors that do not write it well, and then the characters, I feel, just lose their depth and their reasons why I fell in love with them. Again, we're book besties and we have two different opinions on that. We value and appreciate all opinions, but those are mine. Do you have any, Trish?
No, I think all tropes are perfect and they have their place. No, of course I do. Of course I do. So this isn't necessarily a hot take because I know a lot of people have this opinion, but the trope of the Mary Sue character being the main character, where it's like this perfect woman who can do no wrong, every decision she makes is perfect. You can look at some of my favorite books and be like, well, I don't understand why you don't like this because of this series or this series and this book. But if it's done well, then that's one thing. But also, the characters that I like the most that can fall into the Mary Sue category are also ones that have faults. They're not that perfect person. It's like, yeah, okay, she's some badass assassin, but also she's scared of spiders. Yeah. And like, that's being scared of spiders somehow becomes a major plot point. There's things that affect it. Or like, she makes a decision and it's not the perfect one every single step of the way. Like, she has faults. So a Mary Sue that has faults is more something that I'm okay with. Like, people argue that Katniss Everdeen is a Mary Sue character because she does everything right. She wins the Hunger Games. She manages to survive a second time, and she makes it out, and she like ends a revolution and a war and everything. Sorry, I'll make sure that it says Hunger Games spoilers down at the bottom here in case none of you have seen it. But like, in my mind, that's not really a true Mary Sue because she still has faults. Yeah, and I would agree with you on that one. And they are clearly in the book. So, any other ones? The other one that I can think of right now, and I'm sure that like tomorrow I'm going to think of 1,000 more and like different plot points and our opinions and books examples, but yes. The second one I can think of for right now is when it's an unrealistic age gap. With an asterisk there, I will add that asterisk. Don't write a nasty comment, be like, but what about... No, like there's an asterisk there. I mean, when it's like a 12-year-old and a 20-year-old, that's disgusting. I will 100% stand by it. When it's a 20-year-old that's attracted to a 12-year-old and wait until they're 18 to make a play, that's still disgusting. I don't care. You were into that child. That is not right. If you're talking like a 30-year-old and a 40-year-old, it's a very similar age gap, but they're both adults. Sure, they're probably in different places in their lives, but that's still like consenting adults. That's different. Yeah. Also, if we're talking about an age gap where it's like this 900-year-old fae creature and a 19-year-old, that's a little weird for me.
Yeah.
With another asterisk, because, like, the 19-year-old, they're just legal. They're still a child. Like,
yeah.
so many things they've barely experienced the world. But if it's, like, a 900-year-old person and, like, a 25, sure, that's 6 years between 19 and 25. But it's still, like, more okay in my mind.
Yeah.
Because this 25-year-old has now experienced some of life. And they know what's going on. Like, the things that are going around them, they're not this, like, little lamb that's been thrust out into the world for the first time. Yeah. That's when I find these giant age gaps are appropriate, not, like, the gross ones to me, the icky ones.
I also don't like when books that are for middle grade readers or books with characters that are younger, they try to add in some sort of romantical relationship or that sort of thing. I understand kids exploring their feelings and whatever. However, if it's, like, a fantasy book where it's, like, they're going on an adventure, why do you need that? Like, I think in real life, like, why do we need to put that out there for kids to be, like, then saying, oh, should I be exploring those feelings? Because it's okay if you don't want to. And so I would rather, like, middle grade or YA books just purely focus on the adventure. If it's those fantasy ones. If it's an actual romance, then I understand.
But, like, you can also have fantasy adventure books that have a romantic element for it. Just don't force it to be, like, one of the main focuses of the book.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty during, like, especially middle grade to me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty when you're reading, like, those specific types of books.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for romance, and sometimes it's not every book.
That's true. So those are our hot takes on a couple books and then also some tropes. We would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you want to know what some of our favorite tropes are, we'd love for you to head on over to our Q&A, our first ever video on our channel. If you want to check that out, we talk about that as well as some of our other bookish favorites. And we cannot wait to see you in the next one. As always, if you want to give us a like, we would appreciate it. And if you want to follow us for more, you can find us here on YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok. Tricia, our wonderful video editor, will put all of our socials down below. We hope you have a fantastical time reading.
Bye!
Bye!